Here's another tip from Rolling Strong with insights to help you stay healthy on the road.
We're here with Rolling Strong once again. Today we're going to be talking about macronutrients, specifically about protein, which happens to be one of my favorite. As you can see, we have a lot going on here. We'll dive more into that in a second. Let's talk about protein. As you can see, we have our macronutrients displayed within the nutrition portion of our app. We always talk and refer back to the macronutrients being protein, carbohydrates, and fats, but we never really dive into why they're essential and why we need to eat them. So this is going to be part one of a three-part series, essentially speaking on each of those macronutrients. So now let's talk about the term macronutrient. Nutrients are essential to life and we need them in a grand scale, hence the word macro meaning lots, right? So we need to make sure that our diet is subjected to three different components, those three macronutrients, and we need to get sufficient amounts to make sure that our body works and functions properly. So protein essentially is necessary for muscle building, yes, but it's also good for immune defense, right, which helps us fight off infection, bacteria, and viral diseases, as well as regulating our digestive system and boosting our metabolism. So it kind of, in a sense, is making our body run efficiently. So very, very essential. It's comprised of 9 different essential amino acids, once again, that help stimulate and are a catalyst for the muscle building process and the recovery time as well. Because if you train a lot, obviously the one thing you'll notice is that you get sore, and all those amino acids are helping your body recover from that training. So if you do exercise, or if you don't exercise, protein is still a very essential thing in our diet. Next thing we need to talk about is how much are we supposed to be eating, right? Because this is the key. What it says is that we should be eating at least 20 to 35% of our daily calories from our protein source. Now, how do we figure out what 20 to 35% is? We base that off of our basal metabolic rate, which is our total caloric count, or how many calories you burn per day at rest. Now, whatever that number may be, it's 20 to 35% of that. And that kind of goes on a person-to-person basis, depending on level of activity, sheer athleticism, size of the person, right? All kinds of things kind of play a factor into this. And we want to make sure that we kind of fine-tune it and define it specifically to each person and calibrate it to help them get the most benefit out of the protein. So what the standard guideline says is that each person should be eating between at least 0.8 to 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, or 2.2 pounds roughly, right? So obviously there's two ends of the spectrum there. The low end of the spectrum being 0.8 is going to be for the average person who doesn't do much activity at all besides some general walking. And then the 2 grams per kilo would be the higher end of the spectrum, which would be like the more athletic, the person that's very active per day. And it kind of depends even still at that point on how much activity that person really does and trains, because they need to recover faster. But that's the standard guideline, right? Anywhere between 0.8 to 2 grams per kilo of body weight. Now, males have the tendency to overeat, while females have the tendency to undereat. While males hit their target caloric goal for protein a day, they do not get it from the best source. They tend to pick the fattier sources of protein, which be pork and steak, right? When instead of referring to chicken and turkey as the best way to get the protein source, because it's leaner, right? Women in general just aren't hitting the enough amount of protein they need to be eating. Technically, it's supposed to be 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal, and women are just smaller, right? They don't need to eat as much as guys, and guys just have the tendency to overeat in general anyways. So we need to fine tune it, and that's one way to do it. As you can see, I have my handy dandy scale, right? Comes in handy all the time. You get to measure out how much you're eating. That way you know exactly how much is going into your meal. Typically, we go by ounces, right? Every 3 ounces of protein has a certain or significant protein count in grams. So that's how we kind of measure it out and know that we're staying on track. Lastly here, what we're going to talk about is protein sources, right? Kind of dove into that a little bit a second ago, and we're going to kind of get really into it now. Over here, we have a lot of different variety when it comes from animal protein, right? First being chicken, obviously frozen. It's going to be a leaner source, right? It's usually between 20 grams per 3 ounces. We have turkey breast, right, which is another lean source of protein. Top sirloin is always a great choice for red meat. We have some kind of turkey sausage and salmon. Obviously, there's a lot of white fish that goes into that. We want to stick to the leaner proteins, right? Like I said, chicken, turkey, white fish. These are going to be useful in the sense that they're low and calorically dense, but they're packed with protein, right? So we want to make sure that we're eating a sufficient amount of those instead of the higher end fatty kinds. In the middle here, we have our dairy-based products. As you can see, I have some almond milk, right, or silk milk, whatever you prefer. We have non-fat Greek yogurt and liquid egg whites, right? All of these coming from that dairy family. And then we have other varieties here on this side. So we have the powdered version, right, which is going to be my whey protein. We have our regular just whey protein, and then I have casein protein. One is fast digestive and one is slow digestive, and that's for another time. In front of us is the nuts. As you can see, I have almonds, we have almond butter and pistachios, all of which are a great protein source, but they also contain a lot of fat, so we need to limit the amount that we get from that as well. Lastly, over here, we have some quinoa, lentils, and beans. Once again, another great source of protein. If you're vegetarian or vegan, that's usually the source that you're going to go to is the nuts and beans, essentially, and the quinoa. But these are all great sources of protein. They're readily accessible all the time, and there's plenty of ways to mix and match and vary all of these things together to make a great meal and get the sufficient amount of protein that we need. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the quick lesson. Next time we'll talk about carbohydrates, but for now, thank you.
We're glad to offer these podcasts, and we hope you find them useful. At Rolling Strong, we're here to help.